Hello you lot, hope you're all fine and dandy, as you certainly well should be. I'm chilling out, just doing a little bit of tinkering, and I thought, let's bring you lot along with me because you might be interested in what I'm up to. So what I'm doing is, I'm moving this ignition system, engine ignition system as they call it. It's basically just a coil pack. I'm moving it because originally it's in this box and it's common sense and it goes without saying, and I did think it anyway when I saw it, but I thought to myself, if they've designed it like it, it must work. But for all intents and purposes, it kind of works, but it does interfere with the receiver. So the receiver's going to stay in there. I'm going to pad it out so it doesn't rattle around, and the batteries are going to live in there as well. But this ignition system is going to go and be cable tied. I think I'm going to put it here somewhere, cable tie it to that. It's out of the way of anything. I'm not going to put it in a box yet. I might put it in like a tin or something, but I don't plan on driving this in the wet, and I don't plan on driving it in loads of dust and mud. And if anything, it's going to have a good effect because it will keep it cool. Now, with any kind of coil system, when they get hot is when they start to foul. When they first get hot, a few times they'll just stop working, and when they cool down, they come back again. But if they keep getting hot repeatedly, they'll eventually just die altogether. So it's good that it's going to be there, not in a box where the heat's going to be kept in. I remember back 2016 or so, HPI done a video thing where they went to some show somewhere and they announced the version 2 of the Savage Octane, and if I remember correctly, they did relocate it because I remember seeing it all cable tied to the cage. Probably could look that up. Bloody hell. Jesus, where did that come from? Random sneeze. I probably could look that up on the internet, actually, the HPI thing. Anyway, it makes sense to relocate it, to put it there. So that's what I'm doing. Just doing that now. So I'm going to do it, and then I'll show you what I've done. I think they must have had a little bit of an inkling anyway, because look, they gave loads and loads of extra wire on that switch. So there's plenty of extra wire and HT lead, plenty of it to go around there. You know, so they must have thought, well, we might want to relocate it in the future, so let's give loads of extra wire. I don't know, maybe that's not their thinking, maybe it's just how it happened to be, but I reckon they did think it might need to be relocated. Anyway, let's get it done. So what I've done so far, and I might improve on this as time goes by, because obviously these plugs are out and the elements, they're going to get dust in them, and rather than not be, I might do something, might extend the wires, I don't know yet, we'll work that out. It's kind of like a temporary fix. Like, I want to run it, but I don't want to ruin it. I'll tell you why it might ruin it. And what I've done is I've put it so that this, I'm going to call it a coil from now on, but I don't know if you lot might moan at me and say it's not a coil, it's this, it's whatever. I'm going to call it a coil. These wires, if they get bent or pulled, they will break. And the same goes for that HT lead there. It's already started to fray slightly where it's been inside that box, and that wire there has been kinked. So the only disadvantage now is it's right near that exhaust, and it's probably going to get a bit warm, but it's better. I don't know, we'll see. It's designed to get hot, obviously, because it just is, but we'll see how that works. Hopefully it won't be, because if that plastic doesn't melt, then that wire should be perfectly fine. I'm not going to be too worried about that. I need to cable tie it to the frame there so that it doesn't rattle around and go anywhere and get caught on things. But yeah, so I've tied them to the cage. The batteries are nice and free in there, the receiver's in there, everything is happy stappy. You can't tell by turning it on, but it is. And I think that's a lot better. I've cable tied there with one cable tie, but I might get another one. And the reason why I put it that way around and not put it with the wires at the bottom there, because if the wires are at the bottom, they'd be hitting the frame and they'd be getting bent. Up there, they're not hitting anything, they're well out of the way, they're not going to get bent. Yeah, they might get snagged on the twig that comes up. If they do, that's really unfortunate. One of those things. Buy a new one, move on with life. But I reckon that'll be perfectly fine. So I'm just going to cable tie the other side, tidy it up, and that is pretty much job done. And I dare say most people will probably already have done all this. So this is definitely not something new that I'm doing, I wouldn't imagine. But it just makes sense to me to do that, because as I've said before, having kinked wires, I don't know why they designed it like that. HPI, what is the matter with you? I'm pretty sure you did rectify it in the version 2 that you never released. If anybody knows if the version 2 of the Savage Octane did get released, let me know. Put it in the comments, because from what I remember, it didn't. And I have had a quick look. I looked up Savage Octane version 2 on YouTube to see if there's any videos of it. And there wasn't any. There was one dickhead with a Savage Octane that had put some slicks on it and some very ugly rims and called it a version 2, but everything was the same as the version 1, as that one. So it wasn't. Anyway, let me know. There we go. I can't wait to give that another test run and actually get it to drive properly, because the last time I drove it, the clutch melted and stuck to the bell. So I've freed all that now. That's all filed off and ready to go. So this is an awesome truck. If you like revivals, like nitro cars that haven't run for a while and getting them going again, I've just done a Hyper 7. This wonderful Hyper 7, I ended up getting off with a friend of mine. He hadn't used it for quite some time, so I bought it off of him, and the other day I got it running for the first time. I still need to take it out for a drive. I've not taken it out for a drive yet, but I will do that soon. So if you like that sort of thing, nitro, buggies, Hyper 7s, you know, I don't know what it's going to drive like, I don't know what the diffs are like, I don't know what the engine's going to be like. It ran alright. I had to put a different carburetor on it though, and if you want to see why, well, I'll tell you why, but if you want to see the whole thing, go and watch the video. When I was trying to start it up, I was a bit clumsy and I leant on the carb, and I leant on the high-speed needle. Definitely not the first time I've broken a high-speed needle, but it's the first time I've broken a high-speed needle by leaning on it. I leant on it with my hand, which was holding the transmitter, and it broke it off. So that's what we've got left of it. So I nicked the carburetor off of a VG30, an OS VG30. So on that Hyper 7, which has got a Mach 28 engine in it, is an OS carburetor. Don't know whether it's going to be any different. Don't know whether it's going to make it perform any better. Probably not. But that's what's on there, because it's the only one. Well, it's not the only one. I have got some others that would have fitted, but it's the first one. I tried different needles, they didn't fit. So that was the first carburetor that was in front of me. So I took it off that engine and put it on there, and it started up, and it works fine so far. So that'll be an interesting experiment. Will that OS carburetor actually do any good on a Mach 28? Some people might have already done it. I haven't, so I don't know what it's going to be like. Might be good, might be no difference, might be better, might be worse, who knows. But if you want to see that, consider sticking around. I thought I'd just show you what I've done with the ignition system on here, because there may well be some people that haven't done that yet, and I think that's definitely something that you should do. Get that coil ignition system out of that box, because having the wires bent and kinked, stuffed inside there, is not going to do it any good. And a new ignition system, a new coil, is about £140, so you want to try and keep your one working for as long as you can. And if it's avoidable, like kinking wires is definitely avoidable, I'd say do whatever you can to avoid kinking those wires. You don't want to bend them. They need to have a nice swooping bend on them. Don't bend them sharply, because they'll get pulled out, they'll snap, no good. So that was one of the big problems with these. People were having the ignition systems failing. And I'm a firm believer, I really do believe, that it's not because there's a weakness with the ignition system itself. It's just because of the way that it was installed in that box, rattling around with the wires kinked, and the wires just pulled out, the wires just snapped, the ignition system fails, people pull the box out and go, oh yeah, that's it, it's no good, and get a new one, or whatever they do, moan about it, whereas really it's the wires, not the module or the coil, whatever you want to call it, itself. So we'll see. I might be proved wrong. I might drive this a few times and then it stops working, and it turns out to be the ignition system. And then it'll be the debate of, was it already damaged? I don't know, but I think that's the way to go. Thanks for sticking by on this short little video, my friends. Treat people nice, treat people how you want to be treated, and we'll all have a very nice, happy life. Don't try to change people, because they are who they are. The world is very flavourful because people are who they are. So you just accept everyone and get along. Not everybody gets along with people. So stop bickering and enjoy your life. Cheerio, you lot. All the best.